Why did you choose the SportStar for Sunrise?
I had flown, I believe, 6 different LSA models. It was obvious that LSA was going to potentially revolutionize flight training by reducing expense. And this, in an atmosphere of continually rising cost, was of great importance to me. The only airplane that really stood out as an acceptable substitute for the conventional training aircraft with which I was familiar, the 152s, the 172s, Decathlons and Centaurias and so forth, is the SportStar. No compromises. It has toe brakes. Many don't. The seating arrangement is sensible. The panel arrangement is sensible. It's not like somebody's idea of how to revolutionize airplanes. It's how to make airplanes with which we're familiar more affordable and simpler to operate. The other issue with which I had a lot of concern was how much difference would there be learning in an LSA and then making the transition to larger and more conventional certificated aircraft. With the exception of the management of the Rotax engine, the SportStar is perfect. It's a great training vehicle, and the transition into larger, faster, or more conventional or more commonly found aircraft seems to be very straightforward. Flight instructors like it because it's really a good training airplane. Training airplanes ideally are light, small, maneuverable, frisky. Really, the quicker the airplane makes the student aware of a problem, the quicker that the student realizes that that didn't look right, the easier it is to get the student involved in fixing the problem. And SportStars are really a very good training airplane. So from the flight instructor's point of view, it simply makes the job easier. Cost of operation has proven to be the single biggest value. Now, that's what I was looking for in making the switch. And frankly, a little over 3 gallons an hour, Hobbs hour, is an astounding contrast to everything else that we've ever operated here. Additionally, the relatively low inertia, the light weight of the airplanes means that apparently that they don't break very much. We have now run 2 of them through TBO in the engine so that we have a reasonable amount of experience, well over 2,000 hours in 2 of the airplanes that I operate, and pushing a little over 1,000 hours in the 3rd with very few problems. The canopy, the bubble design on the SportStar, does provide fabulous visibility. I find that students are more comfortable getting in this airplane and flying it than in ab initio getting into a high-wing aircraft with a sort of more cave-like interior experience.
How does the Rotax stack up to a Continental or a Lycoming?
Well, time will tell. That is the huge question mark, because I'm operating aircraft in some cases that are on 4th run on an engine, in the case of Lycoming certainly, and so I have enormous confidence in the Lycoming product, and it has the advantage of decades of proven experience on which we can fall back in making recommendations or making decisions about purchase. However, to date, the Rotaxes have been remarkably trouble-free. So that's the best recommendation that I can give, is that we can go 2,000 hours easily without experiencing any difficulties at all. We operate out of a Charlie airport, and as long as the aircraft is instrumented effectively or appropriately to comply with the FAR, flight in D, C, B airspace, all of that is invisible. We're not now confusing the operation of a light sport airplane with the certification of sport pilots. Sport pilots have some restrictions for airspace types and require special endorsements in order to be able to operate. What we're really talking about here, however, is the integration of a light sport airplane into a standard certificate program, where we're offering primary flight training almost entirely to private pilot candidates rather than sport pilots, and the airplane fits in seamlessly.
Getting back to the transition, once a pilot earns his license and wants to move on to a 4-seater, Do you experience any kind of problems or?
No. It is true that if you move from a Rotax to a Lycoming or a Continental, if we're assuming a carbureted airplane, suddenly you're going to have slightly different issues in the operation of it. Certainly the mixture control is going to be a new facet with which the pilot's going to have to become familiar. But this is relatively simple stuff to do. Anytime you're transitioning into different types, there are always going to be some differences. Sometimes substantive in nature, sometimes less important. But getting used to mixture control, eliminating the choke, which is found on the Rotax, this is relatively straightforward stuff. We have 3 now, and adding a 4th to the school lineup. This is the training airplane to which Sunrise is now committed. So I ideally anticipate that conditions in the economy will continue to improve. I have every reason to believe that we will eventually recover. We were at one point operating a fleet of 7 two-place trainers, and being at 4 now, I can only assume that we will be able to grow back to 7 at some point, perhaps beyond. And as far as I'm concerned, there's no reason to make them anything except SportStars.
Are you familiar with the Harmony, which is the
That's our next airplane.
Harmony?
That's our next airplane. So I'm just lumping them together. The Harmony certainly has much more in common with the SportStar than it has with any other airplane out there. And so to my way of thinking, that's just a slight improvement on the breed. Whether we add SportStars or whether we add Harmonies will just depend on our experience with the Harmony as it develops.